Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great week out there so far. There is a good bit to discuss in this morning's video. And the first thing we'll talk about, of course, is today's weather. We'll talk about current conditions, the latest outlooks, and then we'll break down the country section by section. Of course, there's a couple areas that we'll zoom into, get a little bit more detailed on that do run the higher risk of severe weather chances for today. After we get done talking about today and tonight's weather, we will speak on tomorrow's severe weather threat across portions of the southeast. I could see us uptrending to maybe another category higher. Right now, it's a slight risk across a pretty large area of the southeast. It could go up to an enhanced risk. So we'll speak on that a little bit. We'll get more detailed on that in the next video, but we'll provide a lot of good details on tomorrow's severe weather threat also, because I do know there's a lot of people tuning in that is from the southeast to my channel. Obviously, that's where I started talking weather on, so I got you covered for folks here in Georgia, the Carolinas, up into Virginia. And then after we get done speaking on that, we will discuss the pattern coming up. We're not going to get crazy detailed on it, but they are already honking the horn at the Storm Prediction Center for a pretty active stretch of severe weather for the high plains and eventually, and once again, sinking down into the southern plains. And this could eventually kind of swing east as we get later into next week. So we'll speak on everything. I think we have just a continuous active stretch of weather coming up. Nothing too crazy as of right now, but I do think it will remain somewhat active as we get into early to mid-June. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. I will do a Bible devotion at the very end. And if you do hear my dog bark in the background, that's our Husky. For people who's been tuning in for a while, you know that we have a new puppy. Had him for a few months, but he is inside right now, so he might start barking. If he does, I apologize. But he definitely has his most energy in the morning time. So if you're a new viewer, then, well, there you go. So with that being said, let's get rocking and rolling. So this is current conditions. We have a big area of moisture surging across the deep south states. This will continue to move into more of Georgia and eventually into the Carolinas. And they've actually uptrended the severe weather outlook to a slight risk across areas of Georgia and South Carolina. So we'll speak on that. There's a big area of rain going across the Central Plains and starting to get into Missouri and then eventually into Arkansas. And then we continue to have a little bit of a spin up here in southeast Canada, the Great Lakes region. So just areas of moisture up here. And we're waking up to a pretty rainy start in the Pacific Northwest, at least the extreme western areas of Washington and northwest Oregon. So this is current conditions, watches, warnings, advisories. We actually have heat advisories across California and just scattered dense fog advisories out there. But, there's no ongoing severe weather right at this time. So this morning is definitely a little bit different compared to the last several mornings where we've been waking up to many flash flood warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings, even some tornado warnings out there. But the Storm Prediction Center outlook, this is what's new. We have a slight risk across some areas of southeast Georgia into the Midlands of South Carolina, including the coastal areas and low country of South Carolina. We continue to have severe weather chances across Texas. This is no different than any other day that we've seen over the last several days. And a pretty large area of the southern tier of the country at least has a marginal risk, level 1 out of 5 in the dark green. But of course, we're going to speak a little bit more detailed on these highlighted regions here and here. But level 2 out of 5 risk, tornado threat. There's multiple little areas to watch that have a little bit higher of a risk of a tornado. None of them are very high, but there's like 4 different areas that have a 2% risk of a tornado. One up here, kind of from the Mississippi Delta region, up the Mississippi River and west and east of it, all the way up through about like southern sections of Illinois. And then, the low country of South Carolina, southeast Georgia, 2% risk of a tornado here. And then along the Gulf coastline, there is a 2% risk of a tornado. And then we have it over here in Texas. So what about the wind threat? And just note, I always mention this, that there could be some changes with some of these outlooks, but there's 2 areas to watch that have a higher risk of damaging winds. One over here in Texas, 15% risk, and one over here in South Carolina and Georgia, all the way into far northeast Florida, including Jacksonville, has a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in a given location. I will zoom in to my friends here in Georgia and South Carolina. I know I got a lot of people tuning in from this area, but the hail threat, some of these storms could produce some hail in South Carolina and Georgia and really anywhere that runs the risk of severe weather. But certainly the highest risk is here in Texas. Once again, goes from all the way in like Hobbs, New Mexico, all the way to about Waco, Texas. This entire yellow area not only runs a 10% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger, it also, 15% risk. The black outline region, which includes pretty much all of the yellow area, that is a 10% risk of significant sized hail, which is 2 inch in diameter or larger. So definitely a risk, just like any other day we've seen over the last several days of severe weather. Flash flooding risk, the yellow areas, that is where we run a 15% risk of flash flooding. So one up here in Kansas into western areas of Oklahoma, and then also down here into Texas. So central Texas all the way down to the coastal areas, 15% risk of flash flooding occurring. That includes like Houston, College Station, up to Waco, Stephenville, all the way to just south of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The National Hurricane Center outlook, nothing going on. We've been speaking on an area to watch in the Gulf or really the Caribbean as we get like in the next 7 to 10 days or so. Nothing between now and the 7-day mark. But we could get some energy that gets going down here, but I'm not going to get super detailed on that every single video until we really need to. And right now, we just don't need to. So as far as the southeast, this is what's going on. This is this morning, H-R model picking up on that big area of energy across the deep south pretty well. Now I'm going to just show you a broad look at things. As we move to the afternoon hours, you can see that the intensity of these storms certainly pick up in Georgia, the panhandle of Florida. We even got some storms up here in eastern Tennessee. And then we start to get into more so the evening hours, a couple things going on. We got some storms dancing around down here in Florida area, storms in Arkansas, really northeastern portion of the state, and a big area of just moisture going across South Carolina, eastern areas of North Carolina. And then this will try to get all the way up into the overnight hours into southeast Virginia, southern tip of Maryland, and then it'll head on out. And we got to watch our next area of energy for tomorrow afternoon. But just a closer look at some of these areas, Alabama, Mississippi, you're dealing with the rain right now as we continue to get into the morning hours and eventually into the early afternoon hours. Some of these storms could re-intensify. This is around lunchtime, say, in like southeast Alabama. You can see the brightening of the colors, the yellows, oranges, reds, even some pinks. This indicates the strengthening of some of these storms. And then we get to 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and certainly some of these storms could be hanging around. But as we get to about mid-late afternoon, I think as far as widespread activity, we do begin to calm down somewhat. We're probably going to have some lingering showers and storms out here, really isolated. We could have an area of organized storms maybe in like northern Mississippi and maybe eventually into northern Alabama as we start to get into the late evening hours. And this is starting to get into about like midnight. You can see these storms up here closer to Tupelo, well north of like Jackson Meridian. So watch out midnight. Could have an organized area of storms. Might wake you up, some rumbles of thunder, flashes of lightning up here. And we continue to move forward. And my computer is just not really wanting to move fast at all this morning. So this is what it is. Definitely have had some issues. I'll talk about it at the end of the video. No point in getting into it right now. But as we start to move into Georgia and South Carolina, we're going to start off around mid-morning. Some rain will begin to move into Georgia. Scattered amounts, nothing too crazy. And then as we start to get into the afternoon hours, 2 p.m., storms begin to enter western areas of Georgia. And then we skip ahead to about 4 p.m. You can see the intensity of these storms definitely pick up. And central to southern to southwest Georgia, you can see the brightening of the yellows, the reds and the pinks here. Definitely stronger to severe cells are cruising across Georgia at this point. It's around 4 p.m. So we start to get to about 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Storms begin to fully enter South Carolina at this point. So Columbia, this is where I live, Columbia, South Carolina, if you're wondering, if you didn't know. But 6 p.m., some storms start to inch closer. And then you see these cells down here in southeast Georgia, the low country of South Carolina. Listen, These could, provide a quick spin up. Some large hail possible, but damaging winds certainly the highest threat in these areas. So we just need to be careful and watch out with these storms for today. And we start to get to 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Storms are just widespread still throughout extreme southeast Georgia, low country of South Carolina, the Midlands of South Carolina, and then eventually we're starting to get to 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., and midnight. And eventually a lot of this activity begins to head on out and things probably calm down at this point. Now we take a look at North Carolina and Virginia. This is starting off around 5 p.m. We'll just have some scattered downpours, thunderstorms from eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky through areas of western North Carolina and Virginia. But then as we start to get to say, to about 8 p.m., some storms moving throughout eastern areas of North Carolina. These could begin to strengthen. The severe weather threat certainly not as high once you get into North Carolina, but we're probably going to get some strong to severe storms in eastern sections of the state. You see Fayetteville to Greenville. It's around 10 p.m. tonight. We got some storms moving on through, or moving in, then moving through, and then we could develop a really heavy rain threat throughout eastern sections of North Carolina. This is around midnight. This is 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Computer is just moving incredibly slow. Eastern areas of North Carolina, southeast Virginia, scattered downpours are with us, but we'll just stop it there and move forward here. This is the Northeast. We start off this morning and we start to make it to about midday. We do have some rain that's possible hanging out around eastern areas of Mass and southern New England. Just scattered rain showers. Some areas could see it more than others. Northern areas of New York, northern areas of Vermont could get some heavier rain showers. And then we start to get into, say, this evening. Just like I said, scattered rain showers. Could get some heavier burst of rain down here near the D.C. area. You can see some heavier returns. And then we start to get into the overnight hours. And we should wake up tomorrow morning to a drier start, but we're still dealing with a little bit of rain here near the Delmarva Tidewater area. Tropical Tidbit's running a lot faster than Pivotal Weather, that's for sure. But the south central U.S., once again, a broad look at things. We got this area of moisture up here in Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma. We take it to about this afternoon. We got some storms in northern areas of Arkansas, southern areas of Missouri. And then you see the storms get going here in western sections of Texas. And you can already tell, some supercells are trying to get going. You can see even, I know it's a pretty broad look at things, so it's probably pretty hard to kind of zoom in. But definitely some supercells here forming. Not a lot of kinematics to produce a high-end tornado threat. But we've seen that we can produce tornadoes on 2% tornado risk days. So scattered storms are possible in Arkansas, some scattered rain showers this evening in Oklahoma, and we just got to watch these complexes of storms later on overnight throughout Texas. A little bit closer look at things, and Pivotal Weather is moving slow, guys, so hopefully it'll move a little bit faster as we get deeper throughout the video. But we get to about noon, there's not a whole lot going on. Then we get to about 2 p.m., moving a lot faster now. 4 p.m., we see the storms deep in southwest Texas. I mean, like even west of Pecos, and then we got the storms. We get to 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. We got the more nastier storms up here, kind of north of Big Spring, Abilene. You see the circles coming off some of these storms. This indicates more intense updrafts, just more intense thunderstorms up here. So, we get to 9 p.m., 10 p.m., this energy sort of surges. It looks like it's outflow boundary driven. So the outflow will pull these storms south and initiate more heavier activity. So this is around 10 p.m. Storms are starting to get close to San Angelo, Abilene, Midland, Big Spring. Just be careful around later this evening. Some intense thunderstorms capable of producing very large hail, and there is that outside risk of a tornado. A lot of these things produce what we call land spouts. Big debate on that on weather Twitter, on whether they're actually seeing tornadoes or land spouts, or some people just call it all of it tornadoes. But anyways, Oklahoma starting it off this morning. We're just dealing with the showers and rain. But, we're starting to make it into, say, around lunchtime. This is 1 p.m., 2 p.m. Okay, 2 p.m., 3 p.m. We start to get some storms very isolated, popping up around or just south of the Oklahoma City area. 4 p.m., 5 p.m., we're starting to get more heavier activity. And just watch out for these cells. They're not around Lubbock. Intense supercells are possible around that area. And we get to about 7 p.m. Just these supercells are the big things to watch out for here. Just more so scattered, strong to severe thunderstorm activity up here in Oklahoma with just regular kind of run-of-the-mill type severe weather chances. Nothing outrageous up in Oklahoma today. But, you know, we start to get to kind of later at night, closer to midnight. Areas of heavy rain certainly will be possible in southern areas of Oklahoma and northern areas of Texas. And then we start to get to 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Things begin to kind of calm on down in these regions. So, yeah, just kind of fumbling around with that. I don't know why it's moving so slow. I have a hunch on why, but I'll get in that towards the end of the video. So 5 p.m., 6 p.m. here in northern areas of Texas. Now, you know, Dallas-Fort Worth, I would say point south and really southwest and west. You guys could get some really strong to intense thunderstorms, but we take it to about 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Watch these storms kind of surging down this way between Abilene, San Angelo. Some storm action is certainly possible in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This is 11, getting closer to midnight, and just a huge surge of storm activity will surge down through central Texas pretty much. And 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and all this activity will eventually kind of move deeper south throughout Texas after that. So the north-central U.S., kind of similar to the last few days, just scattered thunderstorm activity. Had a tricky storm in Iowa yesterday that produced kind of a cold core tornado. It was interesting, and this happens, and you know, you can't rule it out today. Normally these are not that big of a deal. They don't produce devastating damage or anything like that, but it's certainly possible. But watch out in Iowa, areas of Nebraska, northern Missouri, certainly for some scattered to isolated thunderstorm activity, and then we could just have some rain showers overnight across northern areas of Minnesota, Wisconsin, the UP, and Michigan as we get into the overnight hours. So the western U.S., outside of the rain showers in the Pacific Northwest, we're probably going to get some thunderstorms that pop off the Front Range and kind of dip down south throughout southern areas of the state. Scattered moisture is possible elsewhere across the Rockies, and outside there ain't a whole lot to really mention here. The eastern U.S., southeast, 70s and 80s, Florida, 80s and 90s. It's not quite as warm as it was yesterday across the northeast, but still not too bad at all. And most of the kind of northern half of the country is really pleasant, 60s and 70s. It's actually the further north you get up into Canada, warmer it is, with a kind of a ridge of high pressure just anchored over the area. And once you get deep into the western U.S., you know, it really starts to warm up. Pocket of cooler air kind of bordering the western areas of Oregon and Washington. But, you know, this is just driven off cloud cover and rain. So moving forward, guys, there is a slight risk, and this has gotten larger. I think this will be a bigger deal now for tomorrow. This is for Friday, May 30th, tomorrow. But level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather from southeast Alabama all the way up into southern and central areas of Virginia. This includes Dothan, Augusta, Macon, Columbia, up through the Greenville-Spartanburg area, Orangeburg, Florence, Charlotte, Fayetteville, Raleigh, Durham, up through Danville. Gets all the way up into Richmond to about the central sections of Virginia. Level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. Now, if we look at really what's driving this, there is a 2% risk of a tornado right through Macon, Augusta, Columbia, Charlotte, to the Raleigh, Durham, Greensboro area. So definitely not a non-zero tornado threat. We'll see if that upgrades to a 5% risk somewhere. Now, the wind threat, I could see this bumping up to a 30% risk. Now, if it does, that will drive an upgrade to an enhanced risk, but the yellow area, that is a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in a given location. So winds will definitely be a big threat for tomorrow. There is a risk of large hail. This is the hail outlook. So yellow area, 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. So tomorrow will be an active severe weather day across the southeast states. And so I'll have my attention definitely on this for our folks in this area because I live right in the middle of this severe weather threat for tomorrow. But just taking a look at what the radar could look like starting tomorrow morning, going throughout the next probably 18 hours or so after this. And we'll start off kind of around 7, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. What we'll watch for is as we're starting to get to about midday, we got scattered thunderstorm activity across northern Alabama, northern Georgia. So we'll start to kind of make our way through about the early portion of the afternoon. This is around, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, depending on your time zone. And we got just a sweeping line of storms. And it's a little bit broken up here in southern Alabama. But this is around 3 or 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Once you get into Georgia, this line of storms is definitely more well put together. And there's going to be some isolated spin-ups in this. Now, I'm not guaranteeing you there's going to be a tornado anywhere in this area tomorrow, but there's going to be definitely rotation with some of these lines, just enough kind of shear to create this tornado threat. But, we start to get into, 5 p.m., around 6 p.m., the line of storms begins to surge throughout the eastern sections of South Carolina and dips down into southern areas of Georgia. It could definitely be more intact than what this run is showing in kind of southern areas of Alabama. But, we start to make it into later in the evening hours. And this will begin to hit the coastal areas of South Carolina and Georgia. And we could get some strong to severe thunderstorm activity also into northern areas of Florida. And then as we start to get into the overnight hours, things should begin to calm down. Like this is getting into like midnight to 1 a.m. and some storms could begin to sink southward into sort of north central Florida. But this is as far out as we can go. And just going up a little bit further north, same thing will start off tomorrow morning. And we'll take it to about mid-morning here. And we got some activity moving across areas of Kentucky, eastern sections of Tennessee, moving into northern areas of Georgia. And then we start to get into, say, early afternoon hours. And storms starting to move into western areas of the Carolinas. We've already talked about Georgia, but more so just heavy rainfall up in West Virginia. Can't rule out a strong or severe storm. But then I do want to watch for an enhanced area, maybe a higher tornado threat as we start to get into central to eastern North Carolina, and same thing with Virginia. As these storms start to progress eastward, they will begin to intensify as the atmosphere becomes unstable out ahead of them. So, this is around 5, 6, give or take an hour or so p.m. tomorrow. Storms are working their way through the eastern half of the Carolinas and the eastern sections of Virginia. And then as we're starting to get later in the evening, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I'm just kind of giving you some time frames here. This is probably not going to be exactly where it's going to be. But, this is, for example, around 7 and 9 p.m., storms are surging throughout areas of eastern sections of North Carolina and eastern Virginia. And these storms will be packing a punch late tomorrow evening across the Tidewater and Delmarva area. And then, they will clear the eastern seaboard as we start to move a little bit later into the nighttime hours. But we'll still be dealing with a lot of heavy rainfall up here in the Mid-Atlantic and New Jersey for sure. And just taking a look, say, at the updraft Felicity swath, this is between now and Friday morning. But if you take it all the way through the next 18 hours after that, you can see additional little slashes right here indicating more intense updrafts. They move more so out the west here instead of kind of the southwest and northeast. So basically between now and the next 48 hours, guys, we're going to have storms capable of producing severe hazards. And if you take a look at, say, the wind gust swath off this, let's go throughout the entire period. You can see little line segments here, that indicates 30, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts with some of these lines. And I know it's like sectioned off here to here to here, and that is just because this goes in 1 hour increments. So this line of storms will have a little bit of speed to it, but certainly need to be mindful of what can unfold tomorrow afternoon. It could be definitely a high impact severe weather day compared to what we've seen over the last several weeks. For the most part, east of the Appalachian Mountains, we haven't had really any crazy severe weather so far this spring into early summer, so that's good. But our neighbors to the west certainly have. Now, as we start to get into next week, and we could have severe weather for Sunday, but this is day 5. This is for Monday. There's been some chatter about this in the weather community. We're going to start to have a lot of wind flow across the middle of the country. Dew points are going to spike all the way up into the northern sections of the country, into the 50s, 60s, maybe even 70s. So for day 5, which is Monday, we already have a slight risk up here in areas of Nebraska. This is through South Dakota, southeast North Dakota, into areas of Minnesota. But I do think a larger area than this will run a risk of severe weather, but this is where they're the highest confident in right at this second. Day 6, severe weather threat certainly increases to the south as kind of another area of upper energy kind of swings to this area, enhances the wind energy for severe weather, and basically a jet of flow goes across this region, overlaps moist air. So we have a 15% risk already for next Tuesday of severe weather. So level 2 out of 5 risk. And once again, it's some of the same areas have seen risk of severe weather over the last several weeks. It goes from southeast Nebraska through the eastern half of Kansas, through central and eastern areas of Oklahoma. And we're probably going to have severe weather chances even beyond next Tuesday into Wednesday and Thursday. The Storm Prediction Center does discuss this, and hopefully pivotal weather will be a flow with us pretty well, quite literally. But starting it off Monday, and I can already tell it's not, but starting it off Monday and getting into Monday afternoon, what you'll notice is this area in purple up here, this flow aloft. This is flow at about 18,000 feet, 500 millibars. You have this enhanced kind of belt of 30 to 40 knots of flow. This will overlap a pretty moist environment that will kind of spike into this area, move up into this region, and we're going to have that 15% risk of severe weather in this region because of this. This little belt of flow up here with the upper energy moving through will create an environment for severe weather. Now, at the same time, you see these little areas down here. This is little upper pieces of energy diving down to the southwest. This will set the stage for Tuesday's severe weather threat. And I'm just going to move this up ahead, and we're going to speed this up because this is moving at turtle speed. And it is absolutely killing my flow this morning with making this video. It's been a huge distraction. I've been trying my best not to show it. But this is getting to Tuesday afternoon. You see, as I put my cursor over this region, 30, 40, 45 knots of mid-level flow riding over the southern plains. This will be overlapping a pretty moist environment. And even after, beyond this, we continue to have flow over the middle of the country. And, this is dew points for Monday afternoon. And we got this pocket of dew points in the 60s and 70s. So remember, I just showed you the flow for Monday up here. This will be overlapping a pretty moist environment for Nebraska, up into the Dakotas and areas in Minnesota. And as we fast forward and say, move this into, I was a little bit too much of a jump here. And we start to move this, come on, man. Whew, it's been a struggle with this one this morning. All right, pivotal weather. All right, you are getting on my nerves a little bit this morning. As we start to move into Tuesday afternoon, let's go on and wrap up this video. We get some high-end moisture across the southern plains, dew points in the 60s and 70s, and I just showed you how the flow is overlapping this very moist air. So one thing to just note next week is the spike in low-level moisture way up north. So now we got dew points in the 60s overspreading and getting all the way up into Wisconsin, Minnesota, heck, all the way into the UP of Michigan. So that's all I got, guys. Pivotal weather is acting up this morning, and honestly, I don't think it's pivotal weather's fault. I think it's my computer. So I'll tell you a story on what happened, and we're getting the Bible devotion here. Yesterday was a rough day here in the West household, and it's only rough because I allowed it to be rough. But our AC unit is having issues right now, and luckily it's under warranty. They're going to come out today, so it's pretty hot in the house right now. So it's just having some issues. So it's not cooling properly, and so they're going to come out, see what's going on. So hopefully it's not a big deal. But then I got home, and we got a new dog. Copperton chewed up our Ethernet cable that I literally just ran. Remember, I made the transition to this room, so I ran it, and he ate it all up yesterday afternoon, and had to run it again last night. And I don't know if it's because I was running a Cat 8 cable because I've been running a Cat 8 cable for a while now. And now I have a Cat 6 cable because I could not find a Cat 8 cable on the fly. And I don't know if that's why, Pivotal Weather is just kind of moving a little bit slow. But at the same time, it did seem like it was speeding up. It was slow like that before, but it actually sped up. So, and I don't know if I'm psyching myself out, if my internet's just a little bit slower because of that move from a Cat 8 to a Cat 6 cable. But regardless, I'm going to tweak some things and probably get my Cat 8 cable in. But everything I read, it says Cat 8 is just overkill anyways, unless you just got a high-end setup or something. But anyways, just kind of telling you guys this. So definitely pray for me because I got a little anxiety just about all this. But at the end of the day, none of this is a huge deal. I have a feeling by the end of the day, everything will be worked out. But it definitely affected the flow of the video, the slowness of the internet this morning. So that's something I need to figure out. But this morning, we're in Jeremiah. So it's Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. And a lot of you guys might know this one already, but it says, "For I know the plans I have for you. This is the Lord's declaration. Plans for your well-being, not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope." So I wrote down a couple things. I'm going to go over this and try to build off of it on the fly. But I said here, God wants good things for us. It's up to us to see these things as good when they might seem bad or difficult. God's plan doesn't always bring immediate comfort, but God promised you. I'm struggling this morning, guys. But God promises you that He will bring you through these challenges. Our sinful desires often make our own path more difficult than it has to be. So just remember that, God has a lot of good plans for us. But sometimes our own decisions, our own sinful desires, which play into making bad decisions, affects God's plan on us. And, God's always going to adjust. He's going to adjust your path. And He's going to see what you're doing. And He's like, and this is the way I think about it. Maybe it's not the way you think about it, but, God's going to see, all right, you're going to take that path. All right, you're going to learn the hard way. But I am going to kind of reroute an alternate path for you and get you out of this. Just want to let you know, though, this alternate path is going to make it longer to get where I want you to be. So, God's not giving up on us. He wants good for us. But sometimes, when He answers those prayers and, those decisions that you have to make you uncomfortable. You don't want to do it. You don't want to leave a situation that makes you very comfortable. But He's calling you to do that because He has good things in store for you. And He wants to use you. So I hope that makes sense. Guys, I'm sorry I've been everywhere this morning. Just going through it a little bit. I know that sometimes I'll probably come off as a guy that has it all together, but certainly letting the little things, which everything that I mentioned just now is in the grand scheme of things, very little things get to me this morning. So definitely asking for prayers for that. And God bless all y'all. Stay safe with the severe weather today. We'll begin to get more detailed, and hopefully I can do something between now and the next video to make moving through some of these graphics a little bit faster. And it's really just pivotal weather. It's just pivotal weather that it's always slow. It's always slow, but something is making it even slower. So y'all have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you soon. And